Now, Black Journal reports on the Nigerian Civil War. The background in brief. In 1960, oil-rich Nigeria won its independence from Britain. 6 years later, army officers from the eastern Igbo area, where most of the oil is concentrated, took over the central government. The Hassas, those Nigerians from the north, staged a counter-coup. In its wake, a reported 35,000 Igbos were killed. And on May 30th of 67, the Igbos declared themselves independent and civil war began. The war is not going well for Biafra. The federal government cut off supply routes with a naval blockade, and the Federal Air Force has control of the skies. But the biggest problem of the Biafra state is how to get in food. Landlocked and blockaded with only short strips of usable runway for planes, thousands of Biafran children are allegedly starving to death. Estimates run as high as several thousand a day. As the peace talks begin at Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, we increasingly read accounts of hundreds of thousands of children dying of malnutrition. We black Americans are concerned about this war, not only by the suffering of our sisters and brothers on both sides, though that would be cause enough, but because it is yet another instance of how the colonial powers have for centuries encouraged the division of African peoples while growing richer by exploiting black natural resources. These divisive techniques are clearly seen when we know that Britain is selling the Federal Republic arms, when Portugal is selling the Biafrans landing rights, when France has negotiated for the Igbo oil rights, and when the United States is concerned with the interest of its oil monopolies, while black men and women and children are dying. The Western powers are profiting through this war, and once again pleas which are directed to the United States to act to find food have gone unheeded, just as the needs of hungry black children in Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia have gone unheeded. Black Journal has invited the Nigerian ambassador to the United Nations and the Biafran special representative to the U.S. to hear their points of view and to learn if some conciliation is possible. First, the Nigerian ambassador to the UN, Mr. Edwin Ogebi Agbu. How about the situation that we hear of so much in the press over here? They had pictures in Life magazine of the starvation and deprivation of particularly the Biafran children. Now, this is a war, it's a civil war, and innocent people are going to get hurt, they're going to get killed, but there's a Nigerian official now looking at people in your own state now. Yes. How do you look at this situation, and is it true that this starvation situation is as acute as they say it is? Even in normal circumstances, depending upon where you are, Mr. House, I'm sure that you can get photographs of starving children. It depends on where you are, but I maintain that the whole story of starvation is being used for political ends. If we as human beings realize that people are suffering as a result of a basic cause, I think the easiest remedy to that is to remove that cause. And in this case, all the federal government is saying is, look, if you think your people are suffering, you agree that you are still part of the country, renounce secession, and we will stop fighting. And there will be relief from all over the world pouring into different parts of the country. And this will end it. One other thing concerning the civil war in Nigeria, do you think that there are any Western powers from the white world that have in any way interfered, tried to perpetrate this civil war because Nigeria is an oil-rich country and has other natural resources? Is there a possibility there could be agitation coming from the outside? We know that there is not agitation as such, but direct involvement in this regard. We know we have come into possession with some documents of agreements reached between the rebel leader Ojukwu and French interests who are interested in getting into possession of concessions that are at present held by Americans and the British and the Dutch in oil rights. We have a copy of a document where there was this agreement and for which Ojukwu received a certain amount of money with which he has been able to purchase arms and ammunition. But would you also possibly agree that in a country as new in duration since 1960 of being independent, that this is part of the pain of progress? We believe so. But we do want the rest of the country, of the world, to look at it as such and be sympathetic enough
if possible, to stay away and let us solve the problem ourselves.
Fine. Thank you very much, Brother Agwu.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Dr. Otui, as a representative here in the United States of the Biafran government, which the Nigerian government says is in secession, and we're very concerned here in the United States, and I'm sure most of Black America is primarily concerned about the situation in Black Africa. From your viewpoint, what is the actual state of affairs concerning the health and welfare in the general population of Biafra? Is it as bad as it's said it's?
It's since gotten worse since this article appeared, because food has not gone in any commensurate quantities to combat the widespread famine and starvation. And day by day, the Lagos government continues to show the world what type of a government it is. You probably read this morning, or suppose sometime yesterday, but several papers carried it this morning, that the planes belonging to the Red Cross were fired at by the Lagos government because they did not want them to take food into Biafra. Well, this is a sacred organization which has won the respect of humanity as a whole. The Red Cross has always been involved wherever there's war to go and give relief to the suffering people. But if a people can stand up, first of all, own up that this is a deliberate act to starve out the Biafrans, because as the Minister of Information said here when he visited about a month and a half ago, in his opinion, the starvation of the masses was a legitimate instrument of warfare. So this was not a coincidence, it was well planned. So conditions continue to get worse every day since food does not get in.
And do you believe that there has been any outside influence by white Western powers influencing the civil war that's going on right now?
Definite. As a matter of fact, one could positively state that we're fighting this war against Britain, primarily, then the Soviet Union. Britain because of her economic interests, and the Soviet Union just to gain a foothold on the continent of Africa to spread her ideologies, came in with what they called a cultural agreement with Nigeria, which was followed by a total of 50-something MiGs and bombers to date.
Thank you, Dr. Otui.
Well, thank you very much. Once again.
Last week, the Greek freighter SS Orient Exporter, chartered by UNICEF, was loaded with high-protein food supplies for Biafra, including butter oil, dry milk, and cornmeal. The voyage will take 3 to 4 weeks, and the question is, will she be able to deliver her food cargo in time directly to the starving Igbo children? Political considerations now say no. 4 days ago, Franklin H. Williams, the former United States ambassador to Ghana, sent a cable to the White House which was signed by fellow Afro-Americans. It read in part, quote, "While we express no judgment on the substantive issues involved in this civil war, we are convinced that the destruction of children's lives through action or inaction is not an appropriate weapon in such a conflict." Now, the message urged the United Nations to send agencies now to prevent genocide on both sides. It asked the President of the United States to provide the UN the means for a massive airlift, and it demanded that the International Red Cross start moving food now with funds already provided them for that purpose. It concluded, "We ask the Organization of African Unity to continue its efforts to achieve a ceasefire and settlement of the Civil War and to open a mercy food corridor." The message was signed by members of Black America, including Dr. Kenneth B. Clark, Floyd McKissick, Omar Pasha Abu Ahmed, the co-chairman of the National Black Power Conference, Livingston Wingate of the New York Urban League, and Charles Kenyatta, chairman of the Mau Mau Society. This plea has gone unanswered. Ambassador Williams told Black Journal he plans to reconvene the same group this week to plan further action.